Okay guys, here we're going to do the, let's say, an invisible slip stitch join. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I have my two of my blocked squares here, and at this point, this is when your layout matters because we're joining them together. So we have to know exactly where we want them. So if I want these side by side, I'm going to take one over the other and put them face to face. So right sides together, wrong sides out. If I want it one on top of the other, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to flip it and do wrong sides out, right sides together. So for this one, I'm going to do right sides together, and they're going to be side by side. So I'm putting them face to face, and then I'm taking my stitch markers that I had before, and I'm putting one through both corners. And this helps me to know when I have gone far enough, when we are starting to do the turn, and helps me in case if I miscounted during my single crochet border on one of my squares. This helps me figure out where my corners are and how I can adjust. If I did 28 instead of, or 29 instead of 28, then I know I just need to skip one of the stitches somewhere. And having the stitch markers in the corner stitches helps keep track of our corners. So you're going to hold it so that where you're joining is facing you. And I'm going to use this contrasting color so that hopefully you can see a little bit better where I'm going into. So these are my corner stitches. This is where I'm going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through with nothing on my hook because we're just starting this row. I'm going to go through the first of the loop. It's technically the back loop, but because they're facing the wrong way to each other, or the right way to each other, it's the loop closest to me. I'm only going to pick up that one, and then I'm going to skip over the other half of it, and I'm going to skip over the front loop of the next, my pink square, my second square, and I'm going to go through the back loop. So we're just picking up the back loops. And then I'm going to hold on to my yarn, and I always leave a tail. I know some people do knots. I don't care for knots in my blankets. That's me personally. So I just hold it in place and I'll bury it later. And we're just going to match up each of the stitches and just grab those back loops only. So see, I only have 2 loops, not counting my working thread. I only have 2 loops from the squares. And I'm just going to do a slip stitch. And then I'm going to do this all the way across, just picking up the back loops and doing a slip stitch. And you want to keep it kind of loose. If you do it too tight, it's going to start squishing. So you want to keep it kind of loose, not too crazy loose. And sometimes I had to pull a couple of squares where it was just way too loose, and a couple of squares where it was way too tight. So sometimes it is trial and error. All right, so we're going to do that all the way across, just picking up those back loops and doing a slip stitch. Now let me show you what we have here. You are going to see whatever yarn you are doing. It's not completely invisible, but it's pretty stinking close. So this is the back. If you recall, we put the right faces together. This is the wrong side. So this is the back of it. And so what you're going to see is this. And what I did, whatever squares were facing me, I used that color. So in this case, I would have used the light blue. And so then you don't really see this. All you see is those little bumps there. And it's really kind of cute, honestly. And they just kind of blend in really well. So it's almost invisible there. Now, what you're going to see on the front of the blanket is this. Now, when we pull it, you can see that dark blue. But if this were light blue, or if it were the hot pink, you wouldn't notice it at all. And as you work it, the little front loops kind of cover up those stitches. And so that's why they call it an invisible stitch, because when you use the right color, you really can't see it. And it sits nice and flat. And even on the back side, it still sits nice and flat. I mean, you can see like it just kind of falls right in there. And so I know with like a single crochet, it pops up more. We're not really focused. There we go. So with a single crochet, it kind of pops it up a little bit more. You have more of a ridge. But with this, it just goes right down nice and flat. So that's what you're going to do. And in your corners, what I did with my corners is I kept the stitch markers in even after I finished the row, so that when I joined it with the other two squares, because remember, there's going to be a square here and a square here, unless this is your edge. But if you're joining it with two other squares, you're going to have two other corners, and you want to connect them all in the same way. And so I just wanted to keep track of where my corners were. So I left those in. And the corners, just work it the same way each time, and it'll come nice and clean. And then check the PDF, the written, because I'm going to do kind of a drawing on how or what thread path I used, because I used a particular path for mine, and it's just a suggestion. You can join them by joining one square to all four squares around it all at once, or you can do it in rows, however you want to do it. But I'll put in a couple of suggestions on how to do it, how I did it, I should say. But that's it. Let me go ahead and, oops, turned it the wrong way. We'll go ahead and finish up here with showing you just a couple more to make sure you really got it. So pick up that back loop, pick up the next back loop, pull through, and slip stitch. Back loop, and slip stitch. Okay, so if you have questions, please let me know. I'm happy to help as always, but this is a really awesome join if you really want something that is low profile and is pretty close to invisible. It doesn't take too much yarn up because you are just doing a slip stitch. So those of you who are running low on yarn, this is a pretty good one to use for that too. So again, if you have questions, let me know. Enjoy. And next week, I better see some pictures of some finished blankets starting to trickle in. And I know not everybody's on the same week right now, but hopefully next week we'll start seeing some of the finished blankets starting to pop up. Okay. Take your time, have fun, and thanks so much for everything. You guys have been amazing, and this has been quite the journey, and I've learned so much, and you guys are just awesome. So thank you so much.